I'm going to be building a sandbox. So, I got the wood right over here. Got a bunch of play sand. So, I dug it down a little bit to kind of match with the cement that I poured. It's going to be 2 of these 4x4s. That's how tall it's going to be. I have 2 gutters that come out in this general area. So I dug out a little bit of a trench just for drainage that'll go around the sandbox. And then after that, I'm going to fill in the trench with some of the landscaping rocks. Now, so I'm going to go ahead and plane these. If you can see, the wood's kind of dirty. It's really rough looking. So by planing it, it's going to be nice and clean. It's going to be a lot smoother, which saves me time on sanding. Yeah, see that? Very rough. So this side is not planed, and these have been planed. So right now what I'm doing is I'm cutting off the short sides for the sandbox here, and I'm mitering them, so cutting them at a 45. Something else that I would like to mention is that if you ever want to get into woodworking, invest in your blades, because if you can see here, they got a very clean cut. The edges, hardly any of that fraying or any of that chipping out. See, very clean. And I'm using Diablo Ultra Finish. So Diablo is my favorite type of blade. Alright, so I've gone ahead and put in the landscape fabric. This will help prevent any weeds from growing up through the sandbox. Alright, so what I'm doing now is to kind of keep things from shifting. I put a strap, well actually 3 straps that go all the way around to keep the frame decently squared. And then to keep it from moving around, because I spaced it out just right, I'm putting in some rebar. It goes through the board, or through the wood, and then down into the dirt. And you can still pick it up and down, but you can't shift it side to side, so it'll help keep things in place. So what I'm doing right now is I'm adding the second layer of wood around the sandbox here. I'm screwing them down in place, and the way I'm doing that is I'm using a Forstner bit, so that way I can get a little bit of a recessed hole there, so that way when the screw goes in, it sits flush or below the wood, so that way nothing ever gets caught. The other thing I'm doing is, because the wood isn't entirely perfect, it curves a little bit, it bends slightly. So at each hole, I am clamping the 2 pieces of wood together, so that way they sit nice and flush. See how it's not flush? So by clamping it, I'm able to pull the wood in, so that way it helps eliminate that lip. Alright, so I got all the screws put in place, and this thing's pretty solid. So look at that, it's not moving. This thing is not gonna go anywhere anytime soon. And what I'm gonna do next is, I do have some pretty hard edges here, so I'm gonna go ahead and sand those off, get all the edges nice and rounded so that no one gets caught or cut on the edges. Alright, so everything's all sanded, or at least I should say all the edges are sanded. So you can see right here in the corner, round that off. Right here on the edges, rounded those off. And then I also went ahead and vacuumed out a lot of the debris that was in here, all the wood chips and as much of the sawdust as I could. Now, because I'm going to be putting sand in here, something I found out was, if you want to keep bugs out of the sand, use cinnamon. Mix in some cinnamon with the sand, and the cinnamon deters bugs. Don't really know why, but I'm going to be mixing that in there as well. I do want to stain this in order to prolong the longevity here, but because this wood is still pretty fresh, I noticed that it's still retaining some moisture. So I'm going to wait about a month to let the wood dry out, and then I'm going to go ahead and stain it then. So I bought 20, there's 24 bags there, got an extra one there. The box actually looks pretty good. Filled in with the amount of sand that I bought. Alright, so I've finished putting in all the rocks around the sandbox. What I'm going to do next is I need to make a cover for this because there's like cats in the neighborhood and they'll come and pee and whatnot in here. So I got a tarp, and then I'm going to attach these pieces of PVC here. It's going to help weigh down the tarp so that way the tarp doesn't blow off too easily. Alright, so here's how the tarp looks. As you can see, I sewed in some slits here, and that's where the PVC pipe goes. So it helps weigh it down and keep it nice and flat. Alright, so here I took some Velcro, and technically I should sew this, but because I already have this whole thing put together, just found it easier to staple it. And then I stapled the other piece of the Velcro to the wood, so that way it'll sit right there, just like that. And I put a little bit extra, so that way I have a little bit of a flap to grab anytime I want to open it up. But to keep the staples from corroding, I'm gonna use some of this Gorilla all-weather tape. Gorilla tape, some of my favorite tape. So I'm just gonna put a piece right there over the staples to protect the staples from rusting. Here's 1, 2, and walk that over. And bam, uncovered. So pretty easy removal of the tarp. And then to close it back up, and just grab the tarp, walk it over, one, two, and there you go. So I'll show you guys what this looks like right here. So this is the back part, and you can see the staples are holding the tarp in place. So this back part won't be removable. So now I'm gonna go ahead and also put that Gorilla tape right here, put a layer of that over the staples, so again the staples don't end up rusting over time. Alright, so there it is. It's all done. And the reason why I did it this way is because the PVC pipe helps to keep the tarp from sagging in, so it has a much flatter look instead of looking like something that just got thrown over. It's a little bit extra, but I like the way it looks. Last thing, because I like to make stuff look unnecessarily bougie, I added some solar lights to go around the sandbox, just like how I did on that walkway. Same thing, same solar lights, you know, to have a little bit more landscape appeal to it. So when it gets darker, I'll show you guys what that looks like. Here's how they look around the sandbox. I think it looks pretty cool. So, not bad. Pretty happy with it.